week where finals was to be the hot topic, Fremantle and St Kilda hit the headlines. Mark Harvey was sacked and Ross Lyon quit the Saints to join the Dockers. Lyon arrived in Perth less than 24 hours after the announcement.
Yesterday afternoon we advised Mark Harvey that he would not continue as senior coach in 2012. This was a difficult and considered decision that we believe is in the best long-term interests of the club and our vision for sustained success. This club has had a continued focus on giving Mark the opportunity to develop as our senior coach. As part of our process of due diligence and planning, at the end of the current season of coach, it was appropriate to review the market for experienced and proven coaches to ensure that they were on our radar for the commencement of the 2013 season, when Mark Harvey's existing contract would have concluded. We undertook this process so the club would be fully prepared in case, despite everyone's best endeavours, that we felt that we needed to look for a new senior coach in 2013. This was the basis that our informal talks with Ross Lyon began after our last game through CEO Steve Rossage. As these informal talks progressed, it became clear to both our club and to Ross that we could see an opportunity to work together in 2012. Yesterday afternoon, after 3 days of discussions this week, we reached an agreement with Ross and his legal representative, and we are pleased to announce today that Ross Lyon has been appointed as senior coach of the Fremantle Dockers for a term of 4 years. Ross is an experienced and proven AFL coach. He has coached St Kilda over the past 5 seasons to 4 finals appearances, 3 grand finals in the past 2 years. His win-loss ratio is 63%. This is the highest win-loss ratio of any AFL coach with more than 1 year experience in the AFL. We welcome Ross and his wife Kirsten and their children to the Fremantle Dockers and to Western Australia.
As a career AFL coach, I'm incredibly excited to be appointed the senior coach of the Fremantle Football Club, and I look forward to the challenges that lay ahead.
Just prior to questions, thought I'd clarify the process that's transpired over the last little while. Despite media reports that we've been in discussions for 5 to 6 weeks, that's simply not true. I first spoke with Ross after our last game of 2011 on 4 September. We had 2 conversations that week, and it was agreed that we would talk again after St Kilda's finals campaign had ended. The basis of our talks at that point were to put our club on the radar to Ross for 2013, given that Ross had a contract for 2012 and we had a contracted coach. In our talks earlier this week that followed St Kilda's finals loss to Sydney, it was clear to both the club and Ross that we could see an opportunity to work together, that Ross had an appropriate out clause in his contract, and that it may be appropriate to start looking at an opportunity to work together for 2012. After 3 days of discussions this week, we reached an agreement yesterday.
Ross, do you feel you've stabbed Mark Harvey in the back?
Not particularly, no. I've been headhunted by the Fremantle Football Club. Certainly taken through a PowerPoint presentation of the club's resources, their future direction and what they want to achieve. And an attractive offer was put in front of me. I'm an AFL career coach. I have a young family, 3 children and a wife. They are my purpose. And at the other end, I had no involvement or no understanding of the relationship between Fremantle Football Club and Mark Harvey. So as I sit here today, I hold my head high.
Mr Harris, given that the club was going around behind Mark Harvey's back to do this deal, were you able to look Harvey in the eye when you sacked him?
Yes, absolutely.
With a clear conscience?
In terms of that, just to answer the question, we reached agreement with Ross yesterday after conversations which clearly progressed very quickly, within a very short space of time. In fact, within minutes of Ross advising St Kilda of his right to exercise the option to exit his contract, we spoke to Mark personally, face to face, and clearly delivered what is a very difficult decision.
Steve, this is not a public relations disaster, Steve. It is a public relations disaster. Yesterday, Mark Harvey turns up at a football function unaware of his future, which had already been decided.
So just to clarify, no, it hadn't. There was only a position reached on both the resolution of Mark's tenure as senior coach of the club and also the appointment of Ross Lyon yesterday afternoon.
But at that point he was being misled about your intent, wasn't he? He thought he was going to be coaching next year.
Yes.
You clearly thought that was not a possibility. Why weren't you upfront with it from the start?
It clearly was a possibility, and at that point in time, it clearly was a possibility.
Are you really saying that at a particular point in time yesterday afternoon, he was only ruled out then?
At a particular point in time yesterday afternoon, off the cuff around about 4 o'clock, 3:30 Perth time, that position was reached, yes.
What did Mark Harvey do wrong?
Look, in terms of Mark, firstly, Mark's been a passionate football person for a long time and a passionate, great servant of the Fremantle Footy Club for the last 6 years. Every year, twice yearly, we sit down and review Mark's performance, which clearly looks at Mark's development areas. Those areas are private and confidential out of due respect to Mark and all parties concerned. And we've made an assessment that Ross Lyon, an experienced, capable coach with a track record of success, is the right person to take the Fremantle Football Club forward to secure our aim of sustained success.
Lyon, Mr. Harris said that you are the right fit culturally for the club. Can you explain that, given that they've probably just trashed the culture and you've just walked out on St Kilda? What's the culture?
Well, I think if we clarify walking out on St Kilda, I've exercised, when I reached the agreement with St Kilda Football Club over my last contract extension, they wrote in a 6-month exit when I was asking for a full guarantee, and on the back of that, a 3-month written resignation clause, and an out was put in for me if circumstances for either party arose where they wanted to exercise those options, they could. So that situation arose for me. But I've done nothing unlawful but exercise an option that was written into my contract that's been there over the last couple of years, and I've done that.
So you've been accused of duplicitous conduct on the other side of the country. Didn't you make the public commitment to St Kilda earlier this week?
I think, just to clarify that, I heard the St Kilda press conference. It's been a wonderful 5 years for both parties. Both parties achieved a lot, ultimately fell short. St Kilda are clear in thanking me for my time there, although disappointed, and they're really keen about the future and new direction, as am I.
That's a big part of your coaching has been loyalty and integrity. How can you honestly say that you've been loyal and held integrity with St Kilda after what's happened and what you've told the players?
Well, just let me reiterate, my conversations with the players are just speculation and reporting, so they happen behind closed doors.
The players say they're surprised that you had indicated you were staying and coming back next year.
Well, that's a point of conjecture.
What's the substance of the conversation?
I sit here very comfortable with my integrity and my honour. I've exercised a clause in my contract. My negotiations were started in April. I asked for a 4-year unconditional deal. That wasn't forthcoming until Wednesday afternoon.
Why has your management then terminated your deal?
That's good. Just let me clarify that. There was a clear conflict of interest once contact was made. And it was inappropriate to engage ESP, who were my new management arm, in conversations. I engaged a legal advisor, Clarendon Lawyers, who then conducted negotiations with and for me.
So your conscience is clear with St Kilda with regards to St Kilda Football Club?
I'll just get back to ESP.
Yep.
And with ESP, when I informed them, we both mutually agreed that it was best that they could no longer manage me because they were concerned about perception in the marketplace, even though they had not one conversation regarding this.